What value does our ego hold? Is it nothing beyond a detriment to one's self-realization and growth? What is ego truly? And beyond anyone else's definitions, what does it mean to you? How is it manifested in your experience so far? Ego means I. I've come to see it as anything that establishes us as an individual, distinguishable from the next person. The spiritual is where we are a collective, one. There are some who lean far enough into the spiritual to say we are in truth nothing and no one, undefined and wish to remain so. The ego being an illusion that only brings trouble and further hurt into life. While that may be one way of looking at our spiritual side, and may bring comfort to someone hurting through egoic attachments, does it truly help in the long term? That answer feels incomplete, wounded, a fragment that denies something that so strongly pervades our lives in the 3D since our conception. This perspective that exalts the spirit and completely rejects the ego, the I, in effect negates the human. Others believe that ego is the negative or shallow attachments that we identify with, acquired through conditioning and experience, as opposed to being organic. They distinguish that from our true self, spiritual, inherent, which guides our drives, sense of meaning, and purpose. Are these two things separate, or are both the light and dark aspects of the ego? Because even our true self that we can access is still a limited version, a point of focus establishing individuality for our 3D existence. It still sets us apart from another person. It can be argued that this view is more balanced, and seeing one side as ego or both is a matter of semantics. But the vilification of ego as such can cause confusion, and can make us reject even the true aspects of ourselves for fear it may be bad ego. The ego does come with many disadvantages for the human trying to grapple with this reality. When we begin to identify entirely with this experience, our name, birthplace, culture, belief systems, education, career, status, and other such mostly external elements, our attachments becoming emotional shackles. When they get challenged or threatened, we defend them as if defending ourselves, desperately clutching onto them as if their loss would make us cease to exist. Then there are all the parts of us that were established simply through conditioning by society, reinforced through fear, that are not authentic to us to begin with. These aspects of the ego do serve as obstacles that resist when trying to expand our perspective to include anything that goes against the established, especially our spiritual nature. Hence the process of ego death many go through, which in the end takes away the resistance, not the whole thing. Yet there are advantages to the ego as well. For what did we intend when we decided to incarnate here? What colors and emotions did we hope to experience in the dance of dualities and paradoxes? When unobscured by our conditioning and unhealthy attachments, our true self can shine through. What we're drawn to, where our heart leads us, our passions, dreams, personality, conscience, and other natural inclinations can all serve as clues for our path in this life. They bring meaning and purpose by defining how spirit wishes to be expressed in a human existence. This is why when we feel lost in life and seek direction, rejecting our ego entirely will also cause us to ignore these clues, bringing us back to zero. For practicality, we need a more defined and specified sense of self instead of vagueness. There may be infinite potential through the spiritual, sure, but where does that get focused and grounded through the human? Exploring this reminds me of character creation in role-playing video games. Such games allow us to experience different worlds. At the beginning, we get to create the person through whom we will interact with the game's world. We get to decide their appearance, their backstory, culture, skills, goals, morality, and more. They could be similar to us as the person creating them, a self-insert, or they could be very different. The player and the created character do not negate each other, as the character is an expression of the creator, an experience they wanted to live for a while, a role to play. They both serve a purpose in their own place. The ego, like spiritual connection, is a natural urge or instinct for the human experience. When suppressed, it will find ways to leak out in darker or inverted ways that we may not even be conscious or in control of. There is nothing wrong with shedding parts of your ego that have outlived their purpose to grow and connect better with the spiritual. There is also nothing wrong with celebrating the current you having this experience. Both are helpful and bring refinement and color to life. The problem comes with extremes, when we see things in black and white and try to completely disconnect from and vilify one or the other for whatever harm it may have brought us. Learning to hold a space for both the spirit and ego will help in integration of what we may have seen as contradictory. Both will then work together, becoming increasingly aligned over time. So instead of getting overwhelmed by all the noise on the subject, maybe we can ask ourselves what kind of balance works best for us at present and brings us true peace, and go from there. Thank you.